You may have heard it said before that you should never take insurance when you're playing blackjack. Insurance is when the dealer has an ace showing and they offer you the chance to place a bet on the insurance bar, which pays out 2-1. And most people will attribute this to their hand's value, whether or not they should insure their hand. And that could not be further from the truth. Insurance is actually a side bet whether or not the dealer has blackjack, right? It has nothing to do with your hand. You could have a very weak hand of like a 5, a 2, and a 3. You could have a 14 like I do here. You could have a 20, all right? And you can insure all those different hands, and it turns out that the math is the exact same at the very point that you take insurance compared to whether or not the dealer will have blackjack or not, all right? The reason is if they do have blackjack, then you no longer get to play out your hand regardless of what you have, right? A very weak hand, very strong hand like a 20, right? Your hand is over and you lose. But if you bet up to half of your bet, so here $50 on the insurance bar, then if the dealer has blackjack, yes, you do lose your initial bet, but you get paid out 2-1 on the insurance bar, which here, if it's $50, I'm gonna get another 50 and another 50, which is essentially $100, and you didn't lose any money, all right? Let's talk about the math behind insurance, and I wanna talk about some nuances as to when you would take this versus when you don't wanna take this. All right, so you can see I have a whole deck laid out for us, and I wanna talk about the math behind insurance before we can get into some of the nuances of it. And if we think about kind of what's going on here, let's say we have 5 greens, and we're taking like $50 bets or so, and that means that we would bet up to half or $25 on the insurance bar. And let's just see what happened if the dealer were to have 3 aces in a row with a high enough count, and when this would become worth it to take it, all right? So for example, let's say we lose one, all right, the first time, and so we lose our $25. The next time we take insurance, we lose that, all right? And then the third time, let's say they do have it. Well, because insurance pays out 2-1, we essentially get those 2 bets back that we bet for the insurance at those previous times. Now, this disregards our initial bet because, remember, this is a side bet. So we're really only focused on how much money we're losing to that insurance bet, all right? So it takes about 1 out of every 3 times for us to bet correctly and guess that the dealer has blackjack in order for that insurance bet to be worth it. Now the math backs this up, right? Currently, if I have a full deck of cards, here there is 4 10 valued cards in each suit. So when the dealer has an ace up, what is the likelihood of them having a 10 valued card underneath and actually having blackjack? Well, there's 16 of those 10, so if I do 16 divided by 52, that is 30.7% of the time they're going to have blackjack. We need it to be about 1/3 of the time in order to make this bet worth it, like you just saw here, okay? And so because of that, that's when, if I add in a 10 valued card, and in fact, let's add in a 10 and also take out a neutral card so that we're still dividing by 52 for one deck, because now my true count is a true +1 with, think of these as like the cards yet to be played, all right? And so these 10 value cards are in our favor as they're still in the shoe, all right? This means that all the other cards that have yet, or that have been played, are some of the lower cards and neutrals and things, but there's 1 extra high valued card left, and so it's in our favor now. All right, because of that, the math says this is now 17 divided by 52, which is 0.326 or 32.6%, almost 32.7. So it's still less than 1/3. 1/3 is 0.33 repeating. All right, so I would need at least 1 more 10 valued card. But remember, this is only a true +2 now. Again, I would take out 1 more neutral, as now my true count is a true +2. So this would be 18 divided by 52, and that is 0.34, which is above 0.33 repeating, and therefore this is 1/3. So why do we wait until a true +3? Well, the answer is because it could also be an ace that's causing our count to go up for those remaining cards in the deck. Now, for other hands, aces are really good for us to have left in the deck, but for taking the insurance bet, that ace doesn't really help us. Remember, we take insurance when the dealer has an ace, and this bottom card, if it's an ace, well, we don't win the insurance bet in that case. And because this could also cause our count to go up, we're kind of banking on about every 1 out of every 3 of those 10 value cards are left to be an ace. Now, it's a little bit different math than that, but kind of for the sake of this, real simplistic argument here, think about 1 out of every 3 is going to be an ace, and therefore that would bump us to a true +3 when we are confident in taking that insurance bet to win about 1 out of every 3 of those. 1 out of every 3 of those will get us our money back. And also, remember, that just broke us even, right? If we kind of lose 1, and then win 1, well, it pays 2 to 1. And so therefore that just breaks us even. We want to win, right? We want to win that insurance bet more often than not. And so if it can be a little bit higher than 1/3, which is now at 19 divided by 52, which is at 36.5% of the time, that's going to be even more beneficial for us, right? So let's go back and check out some of the nuances of the insurance bet. All right, so now that you know kind of the math behind insurance, and if you're a card counter, when you should take it, which is at a true count of +3, if you're playing a shoe game, which is, 4, 6, 8 decks or something like that comes out of a shoe, as opposed to if you're playing double deck, you actually can take that a little bit lower at a true count of +2.5 or higher. And we saw why, because that does bump us above 1/3 of the time that there's going to be a 10 valued card underneath. There's less aces in a double deck game, and so therefore you can take it just a little bit lower. And if you're playing single deck, you can even do it lower than that. So let's look at a few different situations that kind of be a little bit trickier. Let's get under $100 out there. And the trickiest is when we have blackjack. What happens when the dealer also has an ace? There's 4 particular outcomes that could potentially happen depending on whether we take insurance or your casino might offer you what's called even money. And I'm going to show you that all 4, no matter what you do, are the exact same outcome. All right, so let's think about this kind of like we did at the beginning. We have $100 out here. If I were to take insurance, which is betting $50, now I am sort of risking, you might say, $150. I still have this. This was mine at the beginning of this hand. However, let's see what happens if the dealer, in fact, has blackjack. All right, well, it turns out that we don't lose our initial bet in this case because it is a push. I have blackjack and they had blackjack. But because I bet the insurance bar, I'm going to get paid out 2 to 1. So again, all of this was my money to begin with, and I get paid out 2 to 1. And so how much more money do I have now? Well, those were what I initially put out there. And so you can see I ended up with $100 extra. All right, that is kind of one case. I'm going to take this back. We're going to start over. Again, this is all my money to begin with. The other situation that could potentially happen, let's do it like this, is if I take insurance, or if I bet the insurance bar, right? However, the dealer does not have blackjack, I do end up losing the insurance bar money. But because this is blackjack, I get paid out 3 to 2. Okay, and in this case, that is 100 plus 50. Okay, so yes, I did lose this 50, but I gained 50 and another 100. So how much am I up total for this hand? A total of $100 extra. Again, think of this as that insurance bet, so I kind of get that back, and I get $100. So again, I profited 100, the same exact thing. Now, the next 2 situations are very similar, and that is even money. You might get a blackjack when the dealer has an ace showing, and instead of betting the insurance bar, the dealer might ask, even money? And you're saying, sure, because you know, after watching this video, that it's the exact same thing. And that is, we're not going to get paid out 3 to 2 like blackjack normally does, but because we're risking, or we're not risking the dealer having blackjack as well, we are just going to take even money and be done with our hand. All right. Now in this case, we bet 100 and we got 100. Didn't have to mess with the insurance bar. So notice that our profit is also 100. Now that is true regardless of what the dealer's bottom card is. If they have blackjack or if they don't, either way, by taking even money here, we gained $100. So if you were to go back and look at those 4 situations, the 2 where we got even money, we gained $100, and the 2 where we bet the insurance bar when the dealer had blackjack and when they didn't have blackjack, we also were up $100 at the end of that. So that special situation where we have blackjack and the dealer has an ace showing, regardless of what you do with insurance or even money, you will profit the exact same amount. Now, that said, be very careful. You don't always want to do that. You only want to do it in those counts that are high enough. Again, that's a true count of +3 in a shoe game and a true count of +2.5 if you're playing double deck. All right, guys, a little bit of a quicker video this week. Hopefully you enjoyed it, learning about insurance. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button for me. That really helps me out. And until next time, remember, this is A1 Blackjack.